מזמור לדוד. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, בינות אשר ירביצני ימי מנוחות ינחלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי הלך בגצל מוות, לא יירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדיפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. When our hearts are filled with sorrow, when we are faced with challenging and difficult times, we often turn to the psalmist. And so I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we remember Jeanette Weinstein. To her children, to Marty, Jim, and Andy, also to Judy, Patty, and Jim, and to the grandchildren, Ian, Maureen, Brad, and Brian, also to Beth and Sumner, and to her great-grandchildren, Scarlett, Sawyer, and Parker, to all the members of the family, and to dear and cherished friends. We've joined together today to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Jeanette. Our sages in their wisdom have taught us that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then, perhaps, to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, and pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Jeanette's journey of more than 94 years began in 1923. She was born to her Russian immigrant parents, Sadie and Aaron Zaslav. Jeanette was the youngest of 6 children, and together with her siblings, Abe, Molly, Harry, Hi, and David, all of them of blessed memory, Jeanette and this large and loving family made their way through some of the most challenging times in our nation's history. Her mother, Sadie, was a homemaker, and her father, Aaron, was a skilled pipe fitter. He was a strong man who was also a wrestler, and the family lovingly referred to him as the Russian Bear. Growing up in Cleveland in the famed Glenville neighborhood, Jeanette enjoyed her friends, and she especially loved music. She also loved to dance. As a teenager and throughout her adult years, she enjoyed dressing up in beautiful clothing and her high heels. And even though times were tough and finances may have been tight, Jeanette was always successful in looking her best. This, throughout her life, was very important to her. In her high school years, Jeanette took courses to learn bookkeeping skills, and following her graduation, she went into the workforce. And soon after, Jeanette met Leonard Weinstein, a World War II veteran who had served in the 82nd Airborne Glider Troop. Leonard and Jeanette met, and following a brief whirlwind of a courtship, they eloped and they married in 1947. These two loving partners remained married until the time of Leonard's passing in 2015. Their 68 years together as husband and wife. Throughout these decades, Jeanette and Leonard dedicated themselves to giving back to our world and to our community. They were devoted to each other, and they were also devoted to their tremendous work as volunteers. Now, I share with you that when I sit down with a family, as I sat down with members of this family just the other day, when I hear of a marriage, especially one that lasted so many years, I ask them, what did they enjoy doing together? I get a lot of responses. They like to go bowling. They like to go to the theater. They like to travel. The first thing that the family members said to me is, they like to volunteer. They like to volunteer together. And I immediately had a sense of the phrase that we use in our Jewish tradition, tikkun olam. These two Hebrew words, tikkun olam, means repairing the world. It's a task that all of us are supposed to be performing daily. And Jeanette and her beloved Leonard were performing this task every day of their lives together. They volunteered at the VA hospital. They volunteered and were very active with Jewish war veterans, an organization where Leonard served as the commander many, many times, and Jeanette served as the president of the Jewish War Veterans Ladies Auxiliary. They gave countless hours and tons of energy to the Boy Scouts of America, both here in town and also by going to Philmont in New Mexico. And through all of this, which kept them very busy, their greatest joy was giving their time and energy to the family they would build together. Marty, Jim, and Andy, when you entered into this world, that Weinstein family portrait became all the more beautiful and complete. Your mom was all about family, and together your parents built a beautiful life for their family. They built the home on Richmond Road in Lyndhurst, the home where you all grew up and the home where your mom lived until 2010. After your dad retired, he took your mom on what was referred to as her fantasy trips. They would go on cruises. There was the cruise to Alaska and wonderful trips, Hawaii and England. But there were those family vacations. These were wonderful times when I'm sure all of you piled into the car. And for better or worse, I believe it was Andy who described them as educational vacations, which maybe a youngster doesn't always appreciate at the time. But your family would take these family trips where always there was an educational component, an American history component. You probably visited more forts than you can remember, but these trips certainly provided wonderful, great memories. Your mom, you described to me a woman who was loving and fun and your protector. What did that mean? Well, it meant that if you got in trouble, I'm referring to Jim right now, if you got into a little bit of mischief, your mom may have been the one who didn't always tell your father about it. You described her as a woman who was a fantastic cook. We have this Yiddish term, a balabust, somebody who is just an amazing miracle worker in the kitchen and in the home. And your mom was just that. She made a fantastic matzo ball soup, her brisket, her bread pudding, the Passover charoset, and the Russian tea biscuits, all recipes that you've tried to replicate. And as good as they are when you make them, it's not quite the same. She had a very good and sweet sense of humor, and oftentimes Mom didn't need to say a word. Just with a look or a glance, she could make you smile or laugh. Jeanette's career was truly family. She dedicated herself to the family, your father, to the children and the grandchildren. This is what meant the most to Jeanette. And with Judy and Patty and now Jim, for her to see her children happy with their mates, with their loving partners, this brought her great joy. To her grandchildren, she was simply known as Bubby. Brad, I've been informed that you turned 40 on the day that Bubby passed. And while it may have felt like a very sad day to you, I know the family wanted you to celebrate because you were the one who gave her that name. Being the first grandchild, you gave her that name of Bubby, and that title was so important to her. Now, whether you were the in-town grandchildren or the out-of-town grandchildren, she was so very proud of all of you. She loved you, she adored you, and I am told you all four of you gave her back that love. How wonderful it was that Jeanette lived to meet 2 of her 3 great-grandchildren. Thank goodness for FaceTime. Just hearing their voices and occasionally catching a glimpse of their sweet little faces, this caused her face to light up and brought her so much happiness. Jeanette was an avid reader, an enthusiastic walker, and she combined those 2 loves as she loved to walk to the library. And she was blessed with skilled and patient hands as she crocheted beautiful Afghans. She was a good friend to many, and so many people came to trust her and to rely on her. If Jeanette Weinstein was your friend, or your mom, or your bubby, you knew you had someone in your life that you could count on. She was a very special lady, and she will be sorely missed by many. We're taught that words which come from our heart enter directly to the heart. And at this time, it is my privilege to call upon Mark Muzzillo. Mark is the chaplain at Absolute Hospice, and he has some special words from his heart to share with all of us.
I did not know Booby all her life, or for much of her life, as all of you. But it was my honor to be a hospice chaplain, and I didn't know. Sometimes people say they decline the chaplain. Sometimes they accept the chaplain. I didn't know what a grace it was going to be that they accepted the chaplain. So I'm honored and moved to be here. There is an old proverb that says, "The house is not built upon the ground. The house is built upon the woman." And that describes Booby. She was mother, grandmother, Booby, and matriarch of a wonderful family and a wonderful heritage. I was able to draw close to her, not just as a chaplain, and I have laughed with Jim about this and talked seriously about it, because there is a very common element as a Jewish man and an Italian man grow up. They have great respect and affection for their mother. So I got it. I got it from the beginning. Sometimes she was not totally open. She might not have been in the right mood or feeling so well. But when she was, she opened herself to me, and she would say to me, "Mark, I am not afraid of dying, but I'm afraid of dying alone." As the time went on, I had a prayer in my heart that I could be there for her at that moment. Now, this is a lady who I'll talk later was persistent, and she was hanging in there, and she was hanging in there, and we would meet, and we would sit, and Booby's hanging in there. And last Thursday, I went again. The family was there, lovingly at her side, and it was clear that the end was drawing near. And I am so grateful to our loving God, because I don't think it could have been scripted any better, that her loving family was there, and Booby did not die alone. She died surrounded by love and the presence of people who deeply cared for her. I can't speak of her without thanking her wonderful family. And I mean that from my heart, because in this business, you can't imagine that we encounter people who do not have loving family. And it breaks our heart, because there's nothing we can do about it. But they were always there, walking with her, monitoring her, moving her from one place to Atria, which was a good move, always concerned for her welfare. And for everybody to have gathered that Thursday night was a wonderful tribute both to her and to her loving family. And I thank you. I will never forget. And I've been with many people at their moment of death, and it's a great honor. But that was very, very special. I also like to invite people to think on their dear departed and what we can all learn from her. And the two words that come to mind are patience and persistence. Now, when I use the word patience, it doesn't mean she didn't have her moments of not being patient. But it was mentioned that she could communicate with a look or a word. And as she became less verbal, there were many a time she communicated to me through a look. She'd give you a look, and you knew. I went in to visit her one time. It was at a meal, And there was a very confused person at her table, and this person was making noise, and it was starting to get to me, and I said something to her about it. She didn't speak. She just looked at me with those eyes and rolled them, and I knew what she meant. If you look up the definition of persistence in the dictionary, her picture will be there. She is the longest surviving hospice patient that we've had. I mean, she was able to hang on. At one point, she was doing so well, we had to dismiss her from hospice because she wasn't dying immediately. And then, of course, we're grateful to take her back. But I think that's what we can learn. She had these gifts of loving and loving from the depth of her good heart. And she communicated it in many ways. And the fact that her life came to a beautiful conclusion is a fitting way that I think we can all love her and remember her forever. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we knew and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. As you are able, I invite you to rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, shochen במרומים, המסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כי זוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת יקירנו, שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן, תהא מנוחתה. אנא ברחמים אסתירך, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בתורה לחיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום, על משכבה ונאמר Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Jeanette, who has gone now to her eternal home, may Jeanette's soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living, and to this we say, Amen. Friends, just a couple of brief announcements. First, for anyone wishing to make a contribution in memory of Jeanette, the family has suggested that you might consider either the Absolute Hospice or the Boy Scouts of America. And as we conclude our service here, we will be processing to the Zion Memorial Park Cemetery for the rites of interment. On behalf of the family, we thank you for your love and support on this most important day.